Vegas, baby, home of bad decisions and Super Bowl Swifty kicking off in 34 and a half hours from now. One team looking for a repeat, Julian Edlow, the other revenge. And as for the next 2 hours, folks, we will help you fine-tune all of your fine bets and give you something smart to say, maybe at your Super Bowl party as you're crushing some guac and chips.
I'll try to help.
Well, that's why I am here, is to listen to you and to listen to our friends Steve and Josh Applebaum in Vegas joining us live now. They will be hanging out with us here until 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Former friends.
Yeah, former friends.
Now they're just Vegas guys.
They've been enjoying themselves for the past 8-9 days in Vegas. They both look like they've been in Vegas for 8 or 9 days. How are you feeling?
That is definitely true.
How are you guys feeling? Steve, are you okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take it's a long road to recovery. I was smart about this, Josh. I took 2 weeks off after this. So that's going to be the full recovery time, but we're still here. We're kicking.
We're doing okay. Emerson, Julian, we miss you out here. I know you got FOMO. I would just say, when you do have a Vegas trip, 3.5 days. Try to go under. If you go over, bad things happen. And the question is, guys, did we sleep last night or did we wake up? It's minus 110 both sides. So we'll see if you can place a bet on that one.
Yeah, it's true. What is it, 5 a.m. local time out there? You guys are absolute beasts for joining us, and we are going to start the show the same way we start it most weeks here on The Sweat. Let's do it. Warm-up bet. So, Bukes, I want you to kick us off. I want you to kick us off with something that you got your eye on here. It can be for the big game, it can be for another sport. Just help the people out who are up and early and dialed into The Sweat right now.
You know what? I'm not going to give an actual bet here, but I think I want to bring up a topic that we should discuss because it was heavily discussed on our show. That was the comeback player of the year.
Man.
So for all of us here on the show, but just a shocking result, like a really shocking result when I think about this. Like, I went back and I was looking at what the odds were, and like even as late as late December, like Hamlin was in like the minus 650, minus 700 range when Flacco was starting to close in a little bit, but closing in, he was still about 10-1 at that time. But I think the most frustrating part is, and this was pretty abundant on Twitter and stuff, is that Hamlin had the most first place votes, but Flacco was still able to overtake that. 13 first place votes, 26 second place votes, 8 third place votes, while Hamlin had 21, 7, and 14 respectively. But this was a shocker. And I definitely was wrong about this market here because I've said it multiple times. If you're putting money down on Aaron Rodgers or DeMar Hamlin to win comeback player of the year, you're basically going to have a win at this point. That did not happen here. But what's crazy to me is that, obviously from the circumstances from what happened to Hamlin and then for him to start playing, whereas, we had Joe Flacco come in, played 5 games, bring the Browns to the playoffs with all the injuries that they had. But it's crazy to me that Hamlin ended up losing this award, especially with how big of a favorite he was so late. Obviously, Flacco closed that gap very, very late, but it was a shocking result. And watching it here, we were in the same hotel as that award ceremony was going on, and there was an audible groan when Flacco was announced as the winner. This was a big market that people were on, but just to bring up how shocking I think that turned out, those results.
There was a very audible groan from my couch. Was
that you?
Yeah, they might have heard me from Vegas. It might have not even been the hotel. I shared Steve's opinion here, obviously. My view, I guess, of the comeback player of the year, and again, the new voting system that was installed 2 years ago, Hamlin would have won with the way it used to be voted on. Hamlin had 21 first place votes, 8 more than Flacco. And Flacco cleaned up on the second place vote. So that tells me a lot of people said, Flacco, cool story, put him second, Hamlin first. But the people that interpreted it as how well you played there were 7 or 8 people that left Hamlin off the ballot completely. And those points, the 11 points I think it was that he lost by, those people that left him off the ballot and just voted on players based on how they played on the field, made the difference. So there was some interpretation there that we missed out on. Flacco got 26 second place votes, and that's why he ultimately won. My view of the award changes a little bit. It more becomes like the most recent feel-good story, kind of, in the NFL because overtaking what
recency
happened
bias.
to Hamlin, recency bias, overtaking what happened to Hamlin seemed, unimaginable in my mind because, again, if you're betting Hamlin or if you're voting for Hamlin, like the 21 first-place Hamlin votes were, it doesn't matter how he's playing. It's just the fact that he played. So I was stunned by it. People said, I don't know if Hamlin's played enough to get it. DeMar Hamlin played 5 games. Guess how many games Joe Flacco played? 5.
Yeah.
So I was just as stunned as these guys and everybody else, and will unfortunately eat the L on many repeating Comeback Player of the Year award bets.
Early December, Joe Flacco was plus 25,000 on the DK Sportsbook for Comeback Player of the Year.
Joe
Flacco's
freaking Flacco.
Yeah, listen, man.
I hate that guy for
Flacco-
the rest of my life.
Flack around and find out, Jules. His 5 games played, the fewest ever by a Comeback Player of the Year award winner. Josh, what are you warming up to this morning here, man? Help us work up a sweat.
Yeah, so I'm going to switch gears here, Emerson. Let's go to college basketball today.
Ooh.
Huge slate, over 150 games. And Julian knows this. This is my favorite system match. Unranked home favorite versus ranked opponent. So there are 2 matches today. Let's go to the big one here, taking a lot of sharp action. Illinois and Michigan State. Now, this is a matchup here with Illinois 17-5. They're ranked 10th in the country. Meanwhile, Michigan State 14-9. Unranked. But once again, the public often says, hey, if it looks fishy, take the obvious side. The obvious side here would be, hey, how do you not go Illinois in the points? Illinois is getting +3.5 at Michigan State. They're the ranked team, better record. So it's an obvious play to go Illinois, right? No, go the other way. I really like Michigan State here today, guys. They open as low as -2.5. They've been bet up to -3, -3.5. So not only did we open with Michigan State listed as the favorite, even though they're unranked, but the line is moving further in favor of Michigan State. Great bet splits here towards Sparty. In terms of the spread, they're only getting 47% of bets, but 74% of the money. And then I'm going to look toward the money line here, again, to protect yourself on what could be a tight game. It's around -155 on the money line, but they're getting 47% of money line bets, 70% of money line dollars. Now, Ken Pom does have Michigan State winning the game, but only by 1 point. So what I try to do is compare what the betting market is projecting versus Ken Pom. He's only got a 1 point. I want to be with my system match. This is why it's going to be a money line play. I'm going to bank on the defensive Sparty, obviously the coaching of Izzo, but they're 21st in defensive efficiency versus 32nd for Illinois. Better 3-point shooting team. They're 12-2 at home. And then here's the kicker, guys, that unranked home fave versus ranked opponent. There's a big win last night when Nevada beat San Diego State, won outright, covered the number. Well, they're now 18-11 straight up this year. Since the start of last year, they're 61-24 straight up, 72%. So I'm going to go with Sparty here, guys, on the money line, unranked home fave versus ranked opponent. It's an auto bet for me every time I see a system match.
And Jules, I know we're going to dive a lot more into that game and other games on today's college basketball slate coming up here in about 20 minutes or so. But anything you'd like to add to that before you get to your warm-up bet?
I joined Josh on Sparty. I laid the 2.5 on the opener. Another one I bet on the opener was Kentucky -3.5 hosting the Zags. It touched 6 on DK Sportsbook since. We're down to 5.5. I'll give you a system here. Gonzaga stinks. That's the system. They're going across the country to play at Kentucky, at Rupp. This team has not beat good teams all year. Now they think they're going to go into Rupp, where Kentucky has lost consecutive games to Florida in overtime and then Tennessee on Saturday night. This is going to be a pissed off. That's the second time since John Calipari became Kentucky's head coach in 2010 that they've lost consecutive home games. This is going to be a pissed off Kentucky team on Saturday afternoon playing against a wildly overrated Gonzaga team that's just kind of getting by on brand name. Kentucky, more shooters, more athletic, more size, home crowd, angry. Gonzaga has not fared well on the road. They've been losing games in Washington. They lost at University of Washington. They lost a neutral game in Seattle to UConn, who pounded them by double digits. 3.5, obviously great number, but I would bet it at 5.5 now. I would look at alternates. I think this is a double-digit win for Kentucky at Rupp with advantages all over the court.
Okay. Well, again, jam-packed college basketball slate on the menu in this show coming up around 9:30-ish or so. But I'm warming up to something. I brought it up last week, and turns out bettors are listening. Because,
Really?
Listen to me, bud. I said last week, Travis Kelce, first touchdown score. No, Steve.
Bettors aren't warming up to it. Just Taylor Swift fans are betting the game.
No, dude, you have
Emerson's
to.
moving the number.
You have to. That's what I'm saying. 20% of bets the most, 21% of the money, the most, on Travis Kelce to score the first touchdown, plus 700 odds. You know what?
Okay.
The dude is well rested. He's got like 300 yards receiving.
Well rested.
Everybody's
Yeah, exactly. But,
Everybody has an equal amount of rest.
Yes, exactly, Steve. And you know who needed more rest than others? Travis Kelce. He shined. He is back in the playoffs. A touchdown in each of the postseason games. About 300 yards receiving here, Steve. Scored the first touchdown against Baltimore a couple weeks ago. Scored the first touchdown in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Scored a touchdown when they faced San Francisco back in Super Bowl 54. This guy is going to be looking up into the suites with his beautiful, powerful girlfriend in her red lipstick on her face and say, I'm here to impress you and to make people money who have bet first touchdown score, me, plus 700.
We need to start taking up more time in the opening blocks.
No,
You don't get a take.
it's not a bad. It's not a
agree
bad.
100%.
It's not a bad bet. It's not a bad bet. You guys cannot take a dump on me for that.
Emerson, though, are you tracking Taylor Swift's plane? I'm a little concerned. Japan to Vegas. Will she get here in time? Hopefully she can provide that motivation, extra motivation for Kelsey.
No,
Everybody
but
knows you need extra motivation in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, thank you,
You
Julian.
certainly do. Everyone's
He's
well
already
rested.
won one, yeah.
Okay. Anywho, guys, hang out. Only thing San Fran has to fear is ... Sphere itself and Taylor's boyfriend. Steve and Stormy will take us on a trip around Sin City to set the tone next. The entertainment capital of the world doing what it does best this week, entertaining the masses as San Francisco fans, Chiefs fans, flooding Sin City, hosting the country's biggest sporting event for the first time. Maybe it's business as usual, a question Steve and Stormy tackled this week.
Welcome to Super Bowl on the Strip.
We're taking a spin around Las Vegas, dealing out 21 facts you need to know.
Let's get rolling. Starting at 1, this is the first time Super Sunday is in Sin City. Damn snake eyes.
Well, 2 isn't great in craps. It is the number of titles claimed by Vegas in 2023 by the Aces and Knights.
3 of a kind, as the Chiefs go for their 3rd Lombardi trophy in the last 5 years. 4, as in inches of rain annually in Vegas.
As the 49ers look to end their 29-year title drought. 5 is for studs.
Specifically the 5 first-team All-Pros on San Francisco.
6, Vegas consumes at least 60,000 pounds of shellfish daily.
What? That's a lot of damn shrimp.
Bingo.
7, lucky for both these teams because they drafted Brock Purdy and Isaiah Pacheco in that round.
It's love, brother.
Speaking of Mr. Irrelevant, 8 quarterbacks were taken before Brock. That's pretty crazy.
Nah.
9.
The Niners.
Or $9,000 being the average ticket price to get you into the game. 10.
Minutes, the average wedding ceremony at places like the Little White Chapel. Just ask Stone Cold,
Ben and Jen,
Michael Jordan,
and more.
11, where 1100 is the address of this Vegas 7-Eleven.
And also the number of years Andy Reid has coached KC. I wonder if he stopped here.
There's an In-N-Out burger right across the street.
12. Are you ready for it?
Taylor Swift has 12 known exes.
That makes Travis her lucky number.
13. What the heck is 13? 14, the number of playoff wins Patrick Mahomes has. He can pass Peyton with win number.
15, the number in thousands of miles of neon tubing that lines downtown Vegas.
16, hit or stay. 49ers legend Joe Montana decided to hit the road and join the Chiefs, racking up 16 postseason victories between the 2 franchises.
17, the deficit the 49ers had to rally from to beat the Lions to get here.
18 is the number of acres covered by one of the town's newest attractions. 19, the number of years a team has repeated as Super Bowl champs since the Patriots beat Andy Reid's Eagles. 20, but you can slip your concierge at the hotel.
That trick can get you an upgrade, and nobody knows more about trick plays than the Chiefs.
Having attempted the most in the league since 2018. Blackjack finally 21, the number of consecutive points the Chiefs scored to beat the 49ers in Super Bowl 54. I feel like I learned a lot. You should hit the town.
Let's do it. Feeling lucky.
Steve and his home away from home there.
Steve can count. That was pretty impressive.
Well done, Steven. Well done. Just cranking away at the slot machines,
job, buddy.
dude.
I don't know if you noticed too, when I got 21, that was a $3,000 bet. So I just want to make sure let everyone know that I'm way ahead on the trip.
I'm sure that was real and not at all set up on camera.
Donuts. Donuts on you next time you were here.
That's a lot of donuts.
No, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, Bukes, just based off that story, I mean, you and Stormy absolutely crushed it there. Obviously, the vibe is always electric and fun in Vegas, but how different is it this week? How different has it been this week compared to your previous trips, just with the Super Bowl being there?
Yeah, and just real quick too, Stormy is absolutely phenomenal. You can obviously see her here on VSiN and DraftKings Network. She's a real pro. That being said, like the atmosphere has really like drummed up over the past couple days. Like I was just talking to you guys off the air, and we were going from Resorts World to Wynn, and it was about 25 minutes, and it's like a half mile away from each other. But it's funny, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Josh. I have seen so many Chiefs fans and very little San Francisco fans in the area.
I'm right there with you. And again, I don't know if it's like just coincidental because we're at Resorts World, but everything I see is like a Chiefs poster.
Yeah.
A lot of people walking around. The Chiefs really travel well. I mean, the Chiefs are the new Patriots. Patriots used to show up at every Super Bowl. Chiefs are even more so. And also, maybe it's a sign because I am going to take the points with the Chiefs, Steve, but I feel like every billboard around us is a huge billboard of Patrick Mahomes. It's his Adidas thing. You got this. Yep. So I don't really see any 49ers stuff anywhere. I mean, I ran into a few 49ers fans who are pretty confident in the game at Resorts World at the casino, but it seems like it's all Chiefs guys, and I think you would probably agree, right, Steve?
Yeah, without a doubt. It's very, I would say it's like 5-1 Chiefs fans to 49ers fans so far. Yeah, it's been a massive
maybe
difference.
because they're closer, right? They can wait a little longer, but I feel like they'd want to be here more.
I'm pretty surprised by that. And earlier in the week, I heard from people like Monday, Tuesday, it was a lot more Niners fans, and that it would be like 75% Niners, 25% Kansas City. And, that's probably more realistically like 60-40. But with the proximity, San Francisco, and, the Niners, both teams have been there recently, but the Niners not having been there in a little bit longer, the Chiefs kind of going every year, I would think there would be more Niners fans. But it could also be a game day weekend thing. Like yesterday, today, people coming in from San Francisco, whereas if you're coming from Kansas City, maybe you try and make a little bit more of a week of it.
Bukes, have you talked to many of these fans walking around, or maybe you, Josh? Because from what I've read, especially from some of the reporters we've had like on this show, Chiefs fans and their confidence is at an all-time high. I mean, we're talking a couple games back-to-back now. They've been underdogs, and we know the record of Mahomes and the Chiefs when they are underdogs here. Are they a confident bunch walking around Vegas?
I think absolutely, Emerson. I think they're kind of relishing this role because, again, I think when you talk to people at Radio Row, we've been around Vegas all week, a lot of people just can't understand why the Chiefs are an underdog here, and you try to continue to explain that, hey, it's not based upon perception, it's the power rating. The power ratings from the sports books, when they crunch the numbers, they say, hey, 49ers on a neutral site, Steve, they are the better team. But I think Kansas City, so many times Emerson and Steve and Julian, like they've been the favorite. They've been the team that's expected to win. The pressure's on them. I think there's like a freeing feeling from a lot of the fan base that says, hey, you don't believe in us? That's fine. We believe in our team. We're going to relish that role as an underdog. So I think kind of the fans are kind of building off that underdog energy, and it's kind of a nothing to lose, we're going to prove you wrong type situation.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, too, I was doing a bunch of shows on Radio Row during the week. I did a couple of Kansas City-specific shows, and they just have that confidence that, like, they feel like they are the team to beat, not the 49ers coming into this game, which is really impressive, too, because, like, we've talked about it multiple times, how it feels like the Chiefs don't have the offensive firepower to match up with the 49ers, but don't tell that to anybody who's been out here or anybody who covers that team. Like, they feel like they are built to beat this 49ers team. Now, let's see how that pans out, because, we talk about how the matchup-wise, like Travis Kelce's in a pretty tough spot against these 49ers linebackers. What if they are able to kind of shut down Rashee Rice here? Then it's kind of your MVSs, your Justin Watsons. Is that going to really get it done? But despite all that, I feel like they are very, very confident coming into this game.
What about celebrity sightings? That's what I really want to know.
Now we're in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, this is good. I saw Mike Golick Jr., Steve, tweet out that, he bumped into Cam Newton, and he immediately was like, I get why Cam Newton thinks that he is still better than Brock Purdy. I mean, Cam Newton's been spitting off all this Brock Purdy slander now, it feels like, for weeks, and I'm sure he's getting clicks because of it. But, Bukes, anyone who's really stood out to you? Because I've heard he's a large human being, but anybody else?
He is actually massive. Like, he was easy to point out at Radio Row. I was saying this. Who my favorite person was that I've seen out here so far is John Taffer. I absolutely love John Taffer. I love Bar Rescue. I saw him. We were filming that segment with Stormy, and I was like, can we stop for like 1 second? I need to go over. But I miss him. But like, I will say, like, I just even like being in our hotel, like there has just been so many people. Like there's literally everybody out here. Like I've been, like texting my wife and everything, like, oh, I just saw so-and-so or this person. Like it is absolutely flooded with people that are here. Like, and at the Vegas airport, is it Harry Reid now? The Harry Reid Airport here, they have said that they have no more room for like private jets. It's completely full. Like they cannot accept any more for parking or anything. Like it is just absolutely jam-packed.
Josh, I know when you walk into our DraftKings studio every weekend, you're pretty starstruck when you see Steve and I and Julian.
I am.
I had to sign him an autograph for our first show.
What has had you starstruck this weekend? Whether you've talked to this celebrity directly or not, or you see someone off in the distance, you get so nervous and you start sweating because I know you're a sweater.
Yeah, I have a lot of sweat.
Yeah, there's so many big names here, Emerson. I mean, Dan Marino was kind of cool for me to see. Obviously.
Wow, the actor from Ace Ventura.
Hey.
From a Boston perspective, I love meeting Mike Felger. I'm a big fan of Felger. I know that's just kind of a New England-centric type thing. I would also recommend, if you have like 20 free minutes, go watch the Felger versus Lombardi Royal Rumble, because it was like the coolest thing you're ever going to see, as good at talk radio as you'll ever see. But also throw this at you guys. Billy Walters was at Radio Row. So in the gambling community, I mean, he is the Michael Jordan of sports betting. And I'll just throw this at you. I'm hearing different things about Billy Walters. He's come out and said that he's on the Chiefs, and he's put a small wager of $1 million on the Chiefs. He thinks the wrong team is favored. But I've had people tell me that he's on the other side. He's on the 49ers, and he's saying that to move the number to get a better number on the Niners. So I don't really know. I mean, people I respect say he's on Niners. He put out an article, multiple sources saying he's on the Chiefs. Is he doing a head fake, which he's known for, playing up one side at a low limit, going the other way at a higher limit? Who knows? But that's just kind of an interesting thing that I noticed.
I was going to ask you if you guys had seen Billy Walters. This is something I wouldn't mind if we have a second to talk about later in the show.
Yeah,
because it's like,
we can.
He's later in life. He's trying to sell some books. If he's right about the Chiefs, maybe it's good for him. But then, of course, what Josh said, he's always on the other side, the head fake.
All right, well, let's see which side you are on when it comes to college.
I'm not going to lie.
On basketball, Bill Self and the Jayhawks hosting Baylor, one of the many highlights here. Plus, which game has Julian placing his biggest bet of the season?
Wow.
So there are more college basketball games on Saturday this week than usual because of the Super Bowl being played in Vegas tomorrow. Another big opportunity for teams on the bubble, with some teams running out of chances, even with more than a month left here in the season. As we look at the top 10 schedule, so number 13 Baylor and number 4 Kansas, that really takes center stage here, Jules. However, as you and Josh are about to tell us, there's tremendous betting value elsewhere around the sport today. And let's start with Illinois and Michigan State. I know Josh hit on this a little earlier with his warm-up bet, but Illinois has won 4 consecutive matchups against the Spartans here, Jules. And Illinois been a good team ATS this season, so what do you want here?
Yeah, I'll add to what Josh said, and we'll see if he has anything to add on top of that. But Illinois has thrived as a road dog. They're 5-1 against the spread on the road overall this season. But they do have a lot of moving pieces lately, and they're coming off a tight overtime win at home against Nebraska, which they were huge favorites in that one. But we're getting to the time of year where, Izzo starts turning these teams around. Michigan State's been awful on the road. They have some bad losses this year, but Sparty has been a different team at home. If you take them away from home, you combine their road games and their neutral games, they're 2-7 straight up. 2-6-1 against the spread. You get them in their own building. Michigan State is 12-2 straight up, 10-4 against the spread. So the number in this one's growing for a reason. Michigan State was a sharp preseason bet to win it all, ranked 1, 2, 3, somewhere in a lot of people's rankings. If they can get it together, bottle this veteran talent that they have, they can make a run. So it starts with games like this at home against a top 10 team. I do like Sparty a lot this afternoon.
Josh, I know these two teams are similar defensively here, but one trend that stuck out to me is the overs hitting back-to-back games for the Illini and 8-2 in their last 10 outings.
Yeah, so the over to me, it's kind of stayed 146, hasn't moved too much off that. So I do tend to lean unders kind of in these primetime games, especially with the public leaning over, yet it hasn't really moved. But really, I'm going to stick with the side here, guys. Again, mentioned at the outset, but look for games that don't make any sense. I think that's just kind of one of those basic, easy things that you can kind of get an edge on. And remember, if the obvious thing always won, we'd all be millionaires. This way the sportsbooks win so much, aside from making us pay the juice, is that you kind of have to embrace the side that doesn't make sense sometimes, because that's the reason why, again, you can bet against the public and be on the sharp side. That's always my goal. But again, Sparty open -2.5. They're up to -3. Some books are even up to 3.5. And again, they're the unranked team versus a ranked team with the Illini. Only half the tickets, but 74% of the money. And again, this time of year, I think Julian made a good point. Sparty's 14-9. They're kind of bubble-ish right now. I mean, you really got to turn it on, win these games, get quad wins, get your resume to make sure you can make March Madness here. So Izzo's time. I know he's a March guy, but it's we're getting into mid-February here. And I think it's a good angle here to take Sparty at home. I'm going money line, though, again, around -155, -160, just on the off chance they only win by 1 or 2.
Other games on the slate include Gonzaga and Kentucky. Jules has been pushing this game all week. I believe you had it on your podcast, Unreasonable Odds, earlier in the week. You have placed your biggest bet of the college basketball season on this contest. Why?
Biggest bet of the season. I've been waiting for this one all week. I said it on Unreasonable Odds on Tuesday. Ken Palm had this 3. I said if this opens 3, 5 units, biggest bet of the college basketball season, lay it with Kentucky. We opened it 3.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Fine, good enough. Don't care about the hook because I'm confident that this is going to turn into a blowout. Kentucky's going through it a little bit. They've lost 3 of 5. They've lost consecutive home games for the second time ever under Calipari since he took over in 2010. Tennessee and overtime to Florida. Both Kentucky and Gonzaga bounced back from losses during the week against kind of punching bag type of teams. Vandy for Kentucky, they went on the road, smoked them, and Gonzaga shot lights out against Portland. But only one of these teams is actually good, and that's Kentucky. And now you're sending, I don't think Kentucky's going to lose 3 home games in a row, especially against inferior competition like Gonzaga. Gonzaga's just a combined 6-4 in road and neutral games combined. Their best win is over UCLA or Syracuse. You take your pick on a neutral there. Both those games were in Hawaii in November. They've played just 2 teams that I would say are actually good or better than Kentucky this year. They lost to Purdue by double digits in Hawaii as well as part of the tournament out there in November. And then they played UConn in a quote-unquote neutral game. That was in Seattle. They got pounded by UConn. Kentucky's not as good as those 2 teams, but this isn't neutral or in Seattle. You're going to Rupp, where Kentucky is desperate for a win. They're going to be ready for this one. I think Kentucky runs away with it. This has gone out from 3.5 to 6.5 some places. I think we're sitting 5.5 right now, DK Sportsbook. Maybe you don't go 5 units on 5.5. Maybe you scale it down 2.5. But I love this spot for Kentucky.
Last month, Josh, Arizona beats Colorado for a 4th straight conference victory. Since then, the Sun Devils have lost 6 of their past 7. It's turning into this full-on tailspin for Bobby Hurley's squad here. Why is this game on your betting card?
Yeah, another system match here, Emerson. That unranked home favorites ranked opponent. Give me Colorado here. Really like the Buffaloes in this spot. And hopefully Julian and I can get some revenge for when Utah couldn't cover the 5.5 against Arizona the other night when you go to triple overtime. So either way, guys, again, look for this fishy system match. You have Arizona 18-5. They're ranked 8th in the country. Colorado 16-7, pretty good record, but they're unranked. But yet, who is favored in this game? It's Colorado. Of course, we're going to have to apply, some home court advantage here, bake that into the number. Pretty much Colorado, it was around a pick'em game, -1. Now they're up to 1.5. The line's going toward Colorado, even though the public is really saying that this, the spread is wrong, quote unquote, wrong team is favored. Public's going here with Arizona in the points, yet 81% of the money on the spread is going with Colorado. And also you look at, home road, Colorado 13-0 at home. Arizona, I'm wondering if that triple overtime game against Utah, they had to expend a lot of energy. It's kind of a tough bounce back. You got to play again just a couple nights later. Maybe they have some fatigue there coming from that triple overtime game. And again, I'll throw it at you again. We had Nevada cover this and win this spot. Unranked home fave ranked opponent. We talked about Michigan State. They're 18-11 straight up, the unranked home fave versus ranked opponent, as well as 72% straight up the last couple of years. So it's kind of a short money line price. You're only looking at around -130 around there. I love Colorado here to get it done. I'll take the fishy Buffaloes here.
Yeah, mixing up my Arizona State here. And
correct.
And the head coaches. Yeah, thank you so much.
Tommy Lloyd.
Take me to right now Auburn and Florida, Jules. This is a game that you wanted higher up in the rundown here because you wanted to hit on it.
Yeah, one of my bigger plays of the season, I had Auburn circled for Wednesday night, hosting Alabama, revenge spot. They blew them out of the water, biggest game probably of the season for Auburn. Now you got to go on the road to the Swamp and reset. Auburn's a really good team. I don't love fading them, but this is the perfect spot to look to the Gators as home dogs. Tigers are 3-3 straight up and against the spread in true road games so far this season. Like I said, Auburn's off their signature win of the year. And meanwhile, you got the Gators, who just beat Kentucky in overtime on the road. Shows you kind of what they're capable of, their talent. But then they lost a close one in a letdown spot at A&M. Now you're returning home from that road trip, looking for a win. Gators are 9-1 at home this season, and they're being priced as dogs for the first time. You check out the betting splits, very sharp to Florida as home dogs, with much larger wagers there. So Auburn, team I really like futures-wise. I think they probably win the SEC regular season, but they're probably not coming out of the Swamp with a win today.
And Josh, Clemson and Q's, I'm sure you have a system that matches up 2 ACC teams with orange logos.
Yeah, that's definitely the system, Emerson. All right, these system jokes are getting out of hand, guys. Systems are, you got to have a good theory behind it. So, again, you got to have the data, but, again, all jokes aside, I like Syracuse here. I think Syracuse is in a good spot to take the points at home against Clemson. Clemson's 15-7. Cuse is 15-8. However, if you kind of look at this from an inflated line value play, all the value to me is on Syracuse. We opened Clemson at one point. They were as low as -2.5, -3. Now the line's up to 4, even 4.5 at some books. But I think if you're playing Syracuse, you want to grab this right now because it looks like it may be coming back down to around 4, 3.5. But you have a pretty good edge here in terms of the bet splits. Only 35% of bets are on Cuse, but 58% of the money. So again, public's on Clemson, yet the bigger, sharper wagers appear to be on Cuse taking the points. Also a really good KenPom edge. KenPom only has Cuse losing by 2. So if we're getting Syracuse at 4 and a contrarian play with quite a bit more money than bets, to me that's a value play, not really a sharp play, because to me to sharp, you got to have some indication of the line moving in your favor. So there's more of a value play based on the number and the percentages. Syracuse is 11-1 at home, and then Clemson had that epic win over UNC. Is it kind of a letdown spot after that big win on the road against the Tar Heels here? So I'll take Syracuse. I'd love to shop around and get a 4.5. If not, I'll take +4 with Syracuse.
And Jules, we talked about how tough the Mountain West has been, and I think you're starting to see Utah State regress a little bit, but then you have Boise State today is really hanging tough in the Mountain West at 6-3 right now.
Yeah, Utah State was 10-0 at home. This week, they were getting crushed by Nevada at halftime. I came back and said, let's bet some Utah State second half. They're a great home team. They fell apart in that second half, completely collapsed. So I do think they bounce back at home off of that loss. Boise State's pretty good. They're 3-3 against the spread on the road. I don't have much bad to say about them. This is going to be a tough game, but I did lay it with Utah State just because of how good they are at home. I think they have the talent edge, and they really need this one.
Okay, anything very quickly here from Creighton Xavier?
Yeah, I think there's value here on Xavier here, Emerson. You know, we had at one point Xavier, I think, was -1. It's now flipped a little bit to Creighton here at -1.5. But I'll take the 1.5 now, wait it out. Again, it's a 12:30 game. Earlier out here, obviously, but if you can get a 1.5 on Xavier, they're in a really good contrarian spot. Ken Pom has them winning the game just outright, so I'll see if I can get that 1.5 and go Xavier.
All right, good stuff, Josh. Hang out. What? Did you want to
I was just going to say, Kansas wins, but that spread's getting out of hand today. Biggest game of the day. They're the best money line parlay piece of the day, in my opinion.
Excellent. Thank you, Muffin Man.
Got to say something about that.
This show takes flight coming up. Literally, Steve has earned his wings.
Steve is on the sphere.
Zipping around Las Vegas, delivering some Super Bowl trends you need to know before the big game kicks off.
That must have cost millions.
All right, there's always plenty of things to do in Vegas, and this week everything is magnified with the Super Bowl in town. I'm told it's a great place to make a bet as well. And this week, Steve Buchanan found a high-flying way to bring to light some trends that can hopefully help you at home build a beefy, big money-making betting card.
We're here at Slotzilla at the historic Fremont Street Experience. Legalized gambling came here in 1931 in Las Vegas. So not only can you gamble here, you can ride this historic zip line, which goes 1,700 feet long and up to 35 miles an hour. I'm gonna go on here and read some stats that you need to know for this upcoming Super Bowl.
Please just smile with those photos in 3, 2, 1, go.
Over the last 10 Super Bowls, the underdog has covered in 6 of those games. The last time a favorite has covered was in 2020 when the Chiefs beat the 49ers. What the hell, man? Oh my God. Hey, everybody. I gotta do this 2 more times. Woo! Hey, look at that gorilla. Since 2000, the over has hit in 11 games. The under has hit 13 times. In the Chiefs' last 3 appearances, they are 2-1 to the under, including the game they played against the San Francisco 49ers in 2020. Everybody! Woo! Hey. So far in these playoffs, the Chiefs are 3-0 against the spread, but only 1-2 to the over. As for San Francisco, they are 0-2 against the spread and 1-1 to the over. Woo, we are flying, baby!
Bukes, I know you love slot machines. Like, seriously, out of all of my good friends, there was the one time a few weeks ago I called you 30 minutes after the show and you're sitting at a slot machine. So no wonder you hopped on Slotzilla, by the way. That launch pad constructed in the form of a slot machine, representing the largest slot machine in the world. Are the people like hanging out there just like, why does this guy love this ride so much? They're like, there he is again. There he is again, zipping down.
Well, the best part was, because we did that obviously multiple times, 3 times as I was doing that, somebody would yell an expletive word at me for no apparent reason. So those did not make the cut, but that is what happened. But I will say real quickly, what was hilarious, to get me on that ride, we did it, consecutively. Yeah. After I got off, they gave me a police escort around Fremont Street to bring me right back around. So they literally had police officers taking me around Fremont to get me back on the zip line.
Look at you. Right there, Look at you, big man. Wow, the police escort? That sounds fun.
Oh, yeah.
People say I don't do work around here. Steve's just going on, tourist rides around Vegas.
Just zipping around Sin City.
Zipping around town.
So, Bukes, how can we hit the jackpot here with these trends, dude?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I'm not the biggest trends guy as I kind of go on Joshua, but I did find it pretty surprising that over the last 10 that the underdog has been covering in these Super Bowls here, especially in the last 10, like we mentioned in that in one of those trends that the underdog has been the play in this one. So obviously in this scenario, that goes with what the public has been on, and that's been the Chiefs. They've been getting that money. Obviously, there has been some late money coming in. Well, not late, but we're still a day away, but. Money has been coming in on San Francisco over the past 12 hours or so, so we'll kind of keep a watch on where that is. But, 49ers are sitting as 2-point favorites thus far as we are talking here Saturday morning. But I was just pretty surprised, Josh, that was one of the more recent trends for these Super Bowls.
Yeah, and this is something that I'm really banking on, Steve, because I fully admit I am terrified of the fact that I am going with the Chiefs and they're getting 65% of bets. I hate that. As a contrarian bettor, it goes against a lot of the things I believe in. But I think as a bettor in general, you got to come to a conclusion that you're most comfortable with. So to me, even though I hate the fact that the Chiefs are the public play, it's these trends versus betting systems. I know it's kind of like tomato, the way you can kind of explain one versus the other. But if you look at that dog situation, this is what I'm banking on. It's not only Mahomes as a dog, 10-1 against the spread in his career, but it's also dogs in general when it comes to the Super Bowl. You mentioned it, Steve, 6-4 the last 10 ATS, 13. If we go even further, 13-7 ATS the last 20 years. And look at the board here. KC getting 1.5. They beat the Eagles. The Bengals lost, but they covered the 4.5.
Yep.
The COVID year with Brady getting 3, he covers that number as well and wins outright. So I think in this game, especially when you have such a tight number, to me, getting the points and the data proves it out. That's kind of the way to go. But also not just a betting dog, but the mentality of a dog here. Again, I've made this point a few times here in Vegas, but the Chiefs don't know they're a trendy dog. They don't know that the line has moved back in favor of KC. All they know is they're being disrespected, and they play and relish the role of being disrespected. So you have the data, then you have the human element. And again, to me, that makes me feel a little bit better about going Chiefs, despite the fact that I really don't like the fact that I'm on a public side.
Yeah, Jules, 6 favorites have covered the spread in the last 20 Super Bowls, including, as Steve mentioned, the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54 against San Francisco. Which of these trends tickle your fancy?
I mean, underdogs in Super Bowls have been doing pretty well. I like to tie it into this. This is probably, and I don't know if it means anything or not, but this is the trend that stuck out to me the most coming into Super Bowl week. So the last 19 times that we have had a Super Bowl where the seeds are not the same. So for example, we don't have 2 1 seeds playing each other, 2 2 seeds. There's a clear higher seed. In this case, San Francisco is the 1 seed in the NFC. The Chiefs are the 3 seed in the AFC. The last 19 times this has happened, the lower seed is 15-2-2 against the spread. So these higher seeds, perception of being the better team, they have been doing awful. They've covered the game twice in the last 19 times with a couple pushes in there. So I find that interesting, yet this time around it is the underdog lower seed that is taking all the public money. So does it apply? I don't know. But I found that interesting. These lower seeds, they didn't perform as well over the course of the season, but they're performing right now, have been coming through for bettors.
And just like big picture overall, too, there's only been, 7 teams to have won the Super Bowl and failed to cover the spread. So typically, yes, you pick the winner of the Super Bowl.
7 and some pushes.
Yeah, so I have team who wins the game, 48-7-2 against the spread in Super Bowl history here. What else stands out to you? I know you were mentioning before the show there were like a few other trends that stuck out to you.
Yeah, and I'll say really quick, if you like the Chiefs in this game, I don't want to be one of those 7 where I take the underdog on the money line and don't cover it. So I did take the couple points with Kansas City. One other thing, and maybe we'll talk about some of these more later in the show, but minus 160 on DraftKings Sportsbook is the price for both teams to score at least 2 touchdowns. And I know we were going through a lot of that data, and it was coming through, I think, 16-6. That's cashed over the last 22 Super Bowls, which puts an implied price of like 260, 270 range on it. So you're getting almost $1 in value there if you're going off the last 22 Super Bowls. Doesn't mean it'll come through in this one. I actually lean to the under in the game, which works against this. But still, two touchdowns for each team. Not too difficult to get, minus 160. I think that's a little mispriced, even if you are on the under in this game.
And
just to kind of jump off that too as well. What's been the strength really recently for the Chiefs has been their run game. What has been one of the biggest liabilities for the 49ers lately? Their run defense. Like we talked about on the show last week.
Remember,
Aaron Jones torched them. They were getting torched on the ground in both of those games there, and 5 rushing touchdowns allowed in just 2 playoff games right now against the 49ers on the ground. Like that is very eye opening, especially when you consider how much they've been running Pacheco. He's been averaging 21 carries per game in these playoffs here. Like he's been a major force for that too. And the Chiefs have been running the ball early. And then you look on the other side, they have Christian McCaffrey, who has some of the most ridiculous anytime touchdown odds that you'll see for anybody in the NFL right now. So to Julian's point, while it sounds at minus 160, well, that's something I want to take though. It probably is mispriced at this point.
And I think just in terms of the total, just wanted to throw this at you guys because Steve, you mentioned that kind of the trend here toward the under. I do lean under here. We've sat at 47.5 pretty much all week, but I would mention one thing. talking to Johnny Avello, interviewing him for DraftKings earlier this week, he thinks this might go to 48. And you are seeing across the market some books that are 40, pay attention to the juice, 47.5 over -115, -120. And you got to remember, we've been here all week, guys, but, a lot of people are coming in today, today. Public bettors, they're going to be betting the over. They're going to be hammering all the, the Chiefs prop bets, the Taylor Swift, theme props, Kelsey, all that kind of stuff. But they're going to root for points. So if you do like the under, you probably want to wait this thing out. Wait for a 48.
Okay.
I would be surprised if it got to 48.5. That would be kind of a huge move. But in general, you look at the trend toward the under in the Super Bowl. You also have the Chiefs 14-6 to the under on the year, and it is a contrarian play because 65% of bets are going over. So just keep in mind, between today and tomorrow, there probably is going to be a lot of movement. If you like the under, wait on it because you could get a better number.
Yeah, even though the over is 7-4 in the last 11 Super Bowls with a spread of 3 or less, you are right, Josh. The more recent trend has said under, as in 3 of the last 4 here. Jules, anything to add to that?
Nobody wants to bet an under on the Super Bowl.
I know. Yeah, it's not sexy. It's not fun. I mean, remember one of the highest totals ever was that Rams-Patriots Super Bowl, and that was what, like 13-3 or something?
Yep.
I'll save my thoughts for the player props section because I have some Pacheco thoughts off of what we were building.
Love that. Gentlemen, that's how you do what you just did for hour 1. We're kicking off hour 2 of the Sweat by tackling more Super Bowl game bets. Will history repeat itself 4 years after the Chiefs and Niners first collided on the NFL's biggest stage? it off the second hour of The Sweat here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. However, wherever you are watching, we love the fact that you are hanging out with us on this Saturday morning. Super Bowl Eve, 33 and a half hours away from Super Bowl 58 kicking off in Las Vegas. Steve and Josh is home away from home for the last 9 days. So we will take a trip to the hardwood again, this time to visit some best bets around the NBA with Josh and Jules coming up. Plus Josh delivering some Big J journalism, why the 49ers are moaning and groaning about their practice field.
Wow.
There's fire alarm gate as well. Someone pulled the fire alarm in the San Fran hotel a few days ago.
I heard it was Josh.
No, I heard
after
it was...
he placed his Chiefs wager.
Whatever it takes for a Chiefs win. They'll do it.
Listen, I heard it was Taylor Swift. She flew in on her private jet, got off, went to the hotel, pulled the fire alarm, then went back to Japan
That's plausible.
to perform in Tokyo tonight. Bukes, but I want to get back to some game bets here ahead of this one kicking off tomorrow. And you mentioned before break, nobody wants to bet the unders in Super Bowls. So right now, where this total sits, I mean, what do you expect? How many points do you expect these teams to score tomorrow night? Enough for the over to hit?
No, I mean, I'm taking the under in this game. I've been on the under, really, I think, since this number first came out here, because these have been historically teams that have been strong defensively. Like, that's really some of the reasons that these teams are out here, too. And then Kansas City has been an under juggernaut, like literally the entire year, 14-6 to the under so far this season. And then what we have from the 49ers, too, like, obviously we think about how good offensively the 49ers are in one thing, but, like, don't take away from the fact that Kansas City has been so good defensively too as well. Like, they have been one of the best defenses against opposing quarterbacks. And what has been something that I've been hammering home, the 49ers are a completely different team when they are playing from behind. And we saw that in that game against Detroit. Granted, they did come back and win that game because they had some nice heroics there, but also how many points did Detroit take off the board for themselves that they actually could be the team that we're talking about here instead of the 49ers. So to me, I think this is going to be an under game. I do like taking the under a lot, too. Like I mentioned, sure, nobody wants to see an under in the Super Bowl, but if it's the right play, if I feel like this is the play that needs to be made, I am going to take that here. 48 points feels like a lot. And then like Josh mentioned, too, and Johnny Avello thinks that this game is going to tick up higher. So if you are interested in the under, I would go with Josh here, too. Wait until at least tomorrow, because I do think we're going to see some movement, not only on the total, but on the spread, too, as well. So if you're looking to play this game, you might be getting a better number, especially when it comes to that total.
All right, and Jules, like if people at home right now watching this show are leaning towards the over, it's basically the opposite of what the public has, the direction the public has been going, right? What are the splits right now?
Well, no, the public is on the over.
Okay.
The handle and bets pretty much match up.
Right.
Splits available on vsin.com. You can go get them there. 62% of the bets for 63% of the handle on the over. 38 for 37% of the handle on the under. But again, a lot of people aren't going to bet the game until tonight, tomorrow. So that's when these public over wagers come in. That's when it ticks to 48. That's when maybe some sharp money comes down on the under in this game. I agree with the guys. I lean to the under. Chiefs have been that kind of team. I haven't been impressed with the Niners' defense, but I think it's going to be the run game that attacks San Francisco's defense. So that's going to grind some clock. Chiefs maybe slow things down in the second half. We know the Niners want to run the ball. Feels like it's got all the mixings of an under here, and at 48, I'd be good with it.
I mean, Josh, Chiefs were involved in that 38-35 shootout with the Eagles in the Super Bowl last year, and that was a game I think a lot of people suspected could be a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I think in your kind of mentioning Emerson recency bias, this is something that as bettors we all kind of have to grapple with, and it's hard too, because if you see something recently and you say, hey, it points to this side over here, it takes a lot of guts to go the other way and kind of go the other side. So I think as a sports bettor, you do your best to try to avoid recency bias. Take the game based on its own merits. But I think if you're the betting public, you're saying, hey, we had what was it, 38-35 last year, Steve? It was over 70 points scored. This is only 47.5. Boom, this is easily going to go over. But I think that kind of the way these teams have evolved, obviously you have the Chiefs, kind of becoming a high-scoring team versus a team that now, is less high-scoring, but also has a much better defense. Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator here, who I think, 2 weeks could devise a pretty good game plan. And then also you kind of look at maybe from a teaser perspective, guys, I think it's a great opportunity if you're a little bit concerned take this total up a little bit, tease it up, and then take the under. Like if you like the Chiefs taking the points, money line, however you want to play it, they're also in a great Wong teaser spot. So going through multiple key numbers, if you can take Chiefs +2 to +8, you go through 3, you go through 7. If you tease dogs in the playoffs, I believe they're like 18-3 against the spread. It's it's like 85%, something crazy, Steve. So can you also take that total, wait for it to get to 48 and then go under 54 along with the Chiefs getting 8? To me, that's one way to attack it. And also the Schwami, Chris Berman, he just put out his pick. He had 23-20, so that would be Chiefs win and staying under the total.
Yep.
And Bukes, we're going to dive deep into props, quarterback props, receiver props, running back props coming up. But is there one that you are very confident in atop your betting card right now?
Yeah, I like Mahomes, and you can pair his passing and rushing yards together. You're getting that at 293.5 here. Like, this is just one of those instances where, I mentioned that the 49ers have really been struggling on the ground to contain any type of run at this point. 318 rushing yards in 2 games here. That's an average of 159 per game. So that's good for Pacheco and good for Mahomes. Julian brought up a great point, too, and I'm sure he'll talk about this later, too, about taking his longest rush instead of his rushing yards because of I'll let him explain that a little bit here. But Mahomes has been rushing a lot here in these playoffs. 14 rush attempts in 3 playoff games so far. 15, 19, and 41 for rushing yards in those attempts there. And then, of course, the passing yards, too, as well. He's averaging 37 pass attempts in these playoffs, despite if they're playing ahead or not. He's doing it at about an equal rate here. And so even with Pacheco running the ball as much as it is, I still think this is a great spot here for Mahomes. But I do like those rushing yards as well.
Jules, let's get back to game props here. What's another one that you like?
Well, first of all, I'll expand on what Steve teed me up for and going Mahomes' long rush over 12.5 yards rather than his total rushing yards. And that means his longest single carry to break off for 13 or more yards. He did this last time in the Super Bowl against the Niners 4 years ago. And in that game, you may remember one of the all-time bad beats of Super Bowl prop betting. Mahomes was well over his rushing yards, I believe by double digits above his rushing yard total in that game. If you remember the kneel downs in that game, he did not just kneel it. There was a little bit extra time on there. So Mahomes did some running around in the wrong direction, way backwards, lost, I think, about 15 yards total on the kneel down drive, and wound up cashing under his rushing prop. This was in 2020, legal sports betting getting into more states. I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, that you could lose a bet that you were up that much, that far over the rushing yard. So I think his long carry, it's almost the same thing. You have a better chance of hitting it. If he's going to go over his rushing yards, he's going to rip off 1 or 2 that take care of the bulk of that. But should I squeeze in Pacheco now? Player prop here work?
No.
Let's save
it. Let's get back.
Pacheco.
Let's get back to some.
That is a player prop anyway in Mahomes.
Okay, yeah. We'll have plenty of time to hammer that out coming up in the show. But Josh, in terms of game bets, could you look for a team, one of the teams to maybe win first half, but then the other to win the game? Could you go in that direction?
Yeah, I think also Emerson, live betting opportunity. We have such a short spread. One team gets out, 7-0. Do you live line the team who's down 7-0? I think that could be worth it. Or maybe, we have a ton of scoring early. You get a live line that's in the 50s. You can buy low and go under. These are all available to you in terms of a live opportunity. But I'll throw this one at you. It's kind of an off the beaten path type one here. The longest kickoff return. Right now at DraftKings, it's 27.5 yards. It's under -145. So right off the bat, anytime I see an under really juiced up like that, I kind of really like it because typically you're going to get a lot of overs juiced up because that's going to be the popular bet. But a couple of things to look at here. One, the game is indoors, obviously, at Allegiant Stadium, so we don't have to worry about the weather or any of the elements here, controlled environment. You have 2 guys who are kicking off with Butker and Moody, who have big legs here, who are most likely going to kick it through the end zone. And then also you look at both special teams in terms of kickoff coverage. They're both top 10 here, top 12 in terms of kickoff return yards allowed, both around 20 per game. You look at the box scores throughout the playoffs, neither of these teams have really broken off anything, knock on wood. They're only bringing out 1 or 2 a game for like 20 to 25 yards. And then also you kind of look at kind of the thought process and mentality of, hey, why run it out, risk a fumble, a turnover, and get pinned back deep in your own zone? Why not just give it to Mahomes or Purdy at the 25? So I'll go longest kickoff return under 27.5 yards.
And there's been one that you mentioned earlier in the week too, Jules, talking each team to score more than a couple touchdowns here.
Yeah, we did it earlier in the show. It's just each team to score 2+ touchdowns. So over 1.5, essentially, if you want to call it that. And again, we all like the under, but we went back, look at the trends. This has happened in 16 of the last 22 Super Bowls. I think, that has an implied price. If you want to use that as your, field there, that's minus 260, minus 270 range, and we're getting minus 160, I believe it is, if it's still there. It is still there. So I think that's a pretty good price, even if you like the under in the game, 4 touchdowns, 2 on each side, that's still only 28 points. Like, the total is telling us at 47.5, 48, with a close spread, each team should be getting in at least 2 times, maybe even 3. So I just think that's not all that much to ask. And even if it winds up that one team is kind of getting pounded here, you have that narrative of the late touchdown. The Lions had the backdoor cover last week, or a couple weeks ago. I think there's a pretty good path, and we've seen it consistently over past Super Bowls, for both of these teams to find their way into the end zone at least twice.
And Bukes, quickly, just for anyone new watching right now, maybe new to the whole betting space, just how creative would you get here with game props like this? Something like, team to score the longest touchdown, that kind of thing.
No, I mean, I think these are just kind of ways that you can kind of dabble a little bit here. I mean, kind of just fun bets that you can make to here as well. Like, you are never going to get a more extensive betting card than you are here at the Super Bowl. Like, you can literally, anything you can think of is probably on the menu for this game here. So just kind of go through here, just see some things that you like to. And because there's also such a big betting card, sometimes there's some bets that you can really exploit too as well, because there's so many lines here on this card.
All right, so we will dive very deep into player props coming up, including novelty props, everybody, but we got to burn another time out here. On the other side, we're talking NBA best bets. So the Suns and Warriors are streaking. Yes, the good kind, plus trade deadline winners and losers. Good old Las Vegas, home of the Raiders. Golden Knights, Aces, and soon the A's, and it's only a matter of time before the NBA catches up to these guys. The league isn't hiding that it's a front runner for expansion, along with Seattle. For now, though, let's talk teams that are actually in action tonight. An 11-game slate that is sure to please. Here is the first half of said slate, one that includes the Thunder taking on the Mavs here, Jules. First game of the day at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Why does this game have your attention?
Fantastic spot for the Thunder. Laid 2 with the Thunder here. You have OKC, who's been a solid road team. They're 15-10, and they're coming off a loss to the Jazz, so in a little bit of a bounce-back spot. But we got the Malinsky special here for the Dallas Mavericks. First game back home after a long road trip. They've been out east here, Milwaukee, Philly, Brooklyn, New York, some big games. Now it's their first game home. You know, you're getting unpacked, you're reconnecting with family, whatever. That's the thought process here. But you can even throw that out and just say that Dallas has been an awful home team this season. They're 14-13 straight up at home. They've been better on the road. They're 11-16 against the spread at home. They've failed to cover 5 straight at home. They've failed to cover 5 straight at home when playing against the Thunder, going back in just looking at recent history here. So, and they've got some moving pieces here. They made some trades at the deadline, reincorporating some guys, losing some guys. So I just think it's a pretty poor spot from Dallas. You return home, play an afternoon home game. It's kind of a weird spot. OKC looking to bounce back off the loss to the Jazz. I like the Thunder a lot in this spot.
Josh, those first 6 games we just had on the screen, which ones stand out to you? Which ones will be on your betting card?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback with Julian here. I like the Thunder in this spot. From a betting perspective, you've seen pretty good sharp action in favor of OKC. This game opened as low as like -1, -1.5 for Oklahoma City. They've been bet up to 2. I think they even touched 2.5 here early this morning. So it's always notable to me overnight into early morning. What's the immediate move? Tells me that as soon as this line opened, you got a lot of wise guys go with Oklahoma City. Bet splits, only 55% of bets, but nearly 80% of the money is going with the Thunder. So I really like that angle here of kind of the public being undecided, but the bigger, sharper wagers going with the Thunder. Also, it's a rest versus tired spot, guys. Oklahoma City's been off since the 6th of February. You have Dallas, who played on the 8th. Julian mentioned it, but it's a bounce-back spot for OKC after they lose to the Jazz. Oklahoma City is 31-19 against the spread. They're the best team in the NBA at covering numbers. Also, you'll get road favorites straight up. They're 108-91, 69% winning these games. So if you're favored on the road, I think the public gets a little bit worried. You know, how can I go road? I want to go home. But no, actually, these teams winning straight up has been a good angle. They're much better defensive efficiency, 5th in the NBA versus 23rd. And then also, you know, the kind of post-trade deadline here. Grant Williams is out. You have a lot of moving parts. Maybe it's a bit of a shorthanded spot with kind of a weird rotation here after the changes being made post-trade deadline. So I'm going to go Oklahoma City on the money line. I'll go Thunder -130.
And Josh, I know you have a prop on your card from one of these games, and we're talking about for a dude who really struggled to find his shot last night.
Yeah, so I'll give you one here. Jaden Ivey. I don't know if this is the one you're mentioning here, Emerson, but Jaden Ivey really jumped out to me. If you look at this spot, Detroit, obviously they're a team that, you know, a little bit ago, I think their adjusted in-season win total is like 9.5. They'll probably go over that. But this is a team that, to me, is really going with the youth movement here. Detroit's on the road against the Clippers. Detroit, again, not even close to the playoffs. They're rebuilding, but they're trying to identify who are their guys that they can build around. You have Cunningham. Ivy is the other guy. Ivy has really, really taken off here recently. Jaden Ivey is averaging 27 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists in the month of February. He's getting almost 40 minutes per game. So with a ton of time here on court, he's gone over this number, points, rebounds, and assists. That's what I'm going to play him over 30.5. PRA at -125. It's a high total game. You're going up against the Clippers, you know, up and down the court, a lot of scoring here. I'm going to go Jaden Ivey over 30.5 PRA.
You're the guy who likes Brandon Miller. He tied for the team high last night, 16 points, but he needed 18 shots to hit that total.
I am the guy that likes Brandon Miller. I've been betting Brandon Miller for weeks on his props.
Found him.
Every time I
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Every time I seem to give him out on this show, he loses. We'll see if we can buck that trend.
Oh.
He's coming off a bad night, like you said, against Milwaukee, but he only played 29 minutes. That was a blowout, get-right spot for the Bucks. Doc Rivers finally wins a game. Yay. Shot 1 of 6 from 3, 6 of 18 from the field, but 20 points against Toronto. Prior to that, 33 on 13 of 25 shooting against Indy, 35 on 10 of 25 shooting against Indy, 28 on 11 of 19 shooting against OKC, 29 on 11 of 19 shooting against the Knicks. He's being featured Gordon Hayward's out of the picture. Terry Rozier's out of the picture. It's just there's plenty for Brandon Miller here, and he gets a bad team, Memphis. This is a spot that he can score. So he's 23.5 points. He's 2.5 made three-pointers. Maybe you can do a 2+ made threes, 20+ points, same-game parlay or something to get a little bit lower there, considering the number's kind of high on Miller. But in some form or fashion, I'll be backing Brandon Miller tonight, just a little early to find out how I'm actually going to be doing it. But Brandon Miller should have a fantastic game tonight.
And you mentioned Gordon Hayward. The biggest trades of a relatively quiet NBA trade deadline included the Thunder landing Hayward. And then the Knicks as well looked at as big winners. As we show the second half of today's 11-game slate, they landed Bogdanovich and Alec Burks from the Pistons here. Would you say that they were a big winner in terms of the trade deadline?
Oh, the Knicks did fantastic. Yeah. They gave up two pieces that were not in their rotation with some picks to get, two starter-level players in Bogdanovich and Burks. They're really going to help on the wing. For the Knicks, you have Brunson playing at arguably an MVP level. He rolled the ankle. We'll see when he's back. Shouldn't be too long. You have Randall. When's he going to come back? They have all these pieces kind of on the shelf, and they bring in this firepower on the perimeter. And as well as OG Anunoby, who's been fantastic for them, but also is a ways away from coming back. So they desperately need this help, at least temporarily, on the perimeter, and then it gives them depth that they haven't had before on the wing in the postseason. So I have actually semi-high hopes for the Knicks in the Eastern Conference right now. I don't think they'll come out of the East, but they certainly should win a round, and they'll maybe be able to win two.
Okay, and the Hawks, Josh, we're focusing more long-term here after a quiet trade deadline. You're looking at them for a prop tonight?
I am. Well, I'm going to go game bet here, Emerson. I was kind of surprised they didn't trade out DeJounte Murray. There are a lot of rumors he could go to the Lakers. Lakers didn't really do anything here. But just in terms of this game in particular, if you're going to root for points, this is my favorite over of the day. It's a really high number. It's 242. Now, when Steve and I were leaving Resorts World, getting an Uber very early this morning to Circa, this was 238.5, 239. So it just goes to show you that if you're going to bet these totals, especially overs, you really want to wake up as early as you can because a lot of these, kind of witching hour moves take place early a.m. But I'm still going to go over here. It opened 238.5. It's up to 242. But there's a lot of reasons to think that we may fly over this total. One, from a bet split perspective, 68% bets, 90% of the money is going over. So it tells me we got a lot of sharp money here, expecting a high-scoring game. But in particular, when both teams are on the second leg of a back-to-back, both teams played last night, the over is 57% this year. So I think the thought process is maybe you have tired legs, you don't give that extra effort on defense, maybe just matador defense, let the other team score. We have seen both back-to-back, the overs do pretty well. Then also non-conference overs that rise. Two teams from two different conferences, lack of familiarity, don't really know how to match up defensively. If you see the total go up at least a half point in a non-conference matchup, the over is 66 and 47, 58%. And then, by the way, the Hawks are 30 and 22 to the over. That's the third best over team in the NBA. Atlanta, by the way, is 29th in defensive efficiency. Atlanta scores a lot. They don't play much defense. This total's on the rise. Emerson, give me Rockets, Hawks, now over 242.
And then, Jules, a lot of people were looking at the Warriors, and they're like, why didn't you choose to move off of Andrew Wiggins or any other underperforming veteran here, especially while Curry is still at this time capable of carrying a team to the highest of heights here. They will be hosting the Suns tonight. So the Warriors have won 3 straight. The Suns have won 3 straight here. Whose streak is most likely to come to an end?
I like the Suns in this one, and I'm going to wait a little bit, see what injury reports look like, but it looks like Devin Booker is going to play, kind of a prove-it game for the Suns to beat the team that's been that team in the West for so long, and the Warriors just haven't been good at home. They, like Dallas, coming home from an East Coast trip, Atlanta, Brooklyn, Philly, Indy, coming off 3 straight wins, too. One of them as an underdog in Indy, where Curry went off. But you get them back at home. They're only 13 and 13 at home. They're 11 and 15 against the spread at home. They've been a better road team, at least against the number, this season. You get the Suns. Suns have been better, I guess, against the number, 12-12-1 against the spread on the road. They're 15 and 10 straight up away. I just think at full strength, the way that the Warriors are trending, outside of Curry, there is not much there. And Curry's a problem, but I think full strength Suns in a spot where the Warriors are returning home from a long East Coast trip. This would be Suns or pass for me.
All right, Josh, any other opinions you have on tonight's slate?
Yeah, got two more props for you, Emerson, here if you want to sweat some player props. One, let's go to the Grizzlies-Hornets game. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's been really good so far this month, in the month of February. He's averaging 27 points per game, 4 rebounds per game. If you look at 4 assists. If you look at his points and assists, you think of Jaren Jackson Jr. as a big guy down low getting rebounds, but if you isolate his points and assists, it's 29.5 in this game, and it's over -120. I like him to go over. He's gone over in 2 of the last 3. Charlotte is dead last in defensive efficiency, so give me the over there. And then also, if you go to Spurs-Nets, guys, Devin Vassell, over 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists. It's -120. He's averaging 25, 4, and 3 in February. He's 3-1 to the over this combined prop in February. He's averaging 35 minutes per game. It's a high total matchup. Brooklyn's bad on defense. I'll go Devin Vassell over 29.5 PRA.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Still ahead. Hey, I want to be a Brock star. How much success will Brock Purdy have against the Chiefs? Yeah, real good, right? Who thrive indoors. Player props on the menu next.
Welcome back to The Sweat. We are live from Circa in Las Vegas, and you know what? We talk a lot about weather and windy unders, but there's no windy unders here. We're at Allegiant Stadium for the Super Bowl. Let's see what the teams are thinking about this matchup indoors.
It's nice not to play a cold game. As a guy from the South.
Oh yeah, definitely helps a little bit playing with the weather being this way.
Obviously, we don't have to worry about any weather. But if we did have to worry about weather, the other team would have to worry about weather as well. So.
Yeah, no, that's going to be nice. It's already different just being here. I got to talk about Miami. When we played them, that was cold, that wind chill. What a fun game that was. I mean, fourth coldest game of all time. Get to tell my kids and grandkids about that one. So,
although, Buffalo was fun, Miami was fun too. Got to say you played in the third coldest game ever. That's like something you can say for the rest of your life.
Baltimore last week wasn't as bad, but we had some pretty cold games. But I think it's a testament to the guys we have in the locker room, just gritty.
But it's definitely nice to play on a beautiful playing surface in a great environment.
I think it's one of the best stadiums in the NFL. Actually, I love their fields. Their fields are always good.
For this one to be an indoor one, we're like, okay, we'll be ready for it. But even if they took the lid off this thing and turned to like -5 degrees, we'll be ready for that either. So
the Super Bowl will obviously be played indoors at Allegiant Stadium, and that's great news for the Kansas City Chiefs. Indoor games, they're 3-0 so far this year, averaging roughly 24 points per game. Ironically enough, their team total for this game is 23.5. So will this be a benefit to the Chiefs? And also, we got to remember, Chiefs have a pretty good practice facility. The 49ers, on the other hand, have not been too happy with the UNLV facility.
Are you satisfied with that choice?
We're here, we're practicing on it. I mean, everyone has their preferences and wish things were better, but we'll deal with the field how it is.
We've had 23 experts out there. We've had the union out there. All of them think that's a very playable surface. It's softer than what they have practiced on, but that happens. It's well within all of our testing standards. It is something that we think all our experts, as well as neutral field inspectors, have all said unanimously that it's a playable field.
All right, well done, Josh. That's Big J journalism from you right there, homie.
Super professional.
Oh, yeah.
Some back and forth there between the league and San Francisco. Practice field, will this be a part of, will this be a narrative people are focusing on here, Josh? And which quarterback props are you looking at?
Yeah, so I look at it a couple different ways. Like, number one, it just seems to me like the 49ers are kind of complaining and like making excuses. And I'm wondering if, the Chiefs and the Super Bowl are getting in their heads a bit. They're complaining about the practice facility. They're complaining about the fire alarm. Like, all these different issues are cropping up. Do you hear Kansas City complain about anything? No, they've been there, done that. So anytime a team starts to complain and look for excuses, it feels to me like they're just not in the greatest headspace in general. So that's something that is kind of just intriguing with alarm gate and obviously practice field gate here. But I'll look at a couple things, guys, when it comes to quarterbacks here. Number one, if you look at Brock Purdy, there's been a lot of betting here on the Brock Purdy over rushing yards. It opened at 11.5. It's been bet up to 12.5. A lot of these books are really juiced up, like it may even go to 13. So we've seen Purdy really rush the ball pretty well here recently. And then also you look at Patrick Mahomes and his rushing yards. It was 25.5 up to like 26.5. I think it's still come back down maybe to 25.5. But I think, in this, regular season like Mahomes, I think he's really smart. He's selective. He gets down. He slides. He protects himself. When you get to the Super Bowl, you got nothing left to lose. I mean, to me, this is a game where if you're going to slide maybe in the regular season, now you're going to dive and risk a hit. We've seen Mahomes go over this number quite a bit, especially in the postseason. I think he had over, 40 yards or something against Philly last year. So I think both quarterbacks, we really focus on them throwing the ball, Steve. But I think if you look at both these QBs rushing, to me, that's a bet worth making going over.
Yeah, Steve, Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, I like taking that Purdy under on the rushing yards here. Like, I think people are going to automatically go and bet the over here because he's been running the ball so much in these playoffs. But that's, like, not part of his game normally. Like, 11 rushes for 62 yards in these playoffs so far. You think, wow, that's a pretty big chunk. But if you take his total rushing yards for the entire season, regular season and playoffs combined, of that altogether, he has a total of 206. 67% of his total rushing yards for that entire year came in 4 games. That is not something he normally does, and it feels like a low number, and people go, oh, well, he's done this so many times in the playoffs so far. That is not part of his game. And then going up against a Kansas City Chiefs defense that has a pretty average pass rush, I don't think there's going to be situations where he's going to be needing to be running to begin with. So I really like the under on those Purdy rushing yards. I feel like that's one of those bets that people are just going to fall into because of the recency bias.
Jules, going back to Mahomes, 4-0 in Allegiant Stadium. Also just 13-1 in his career when playing in an indoor stadium. And the stats really get better than that. In those games, he's been a dominant force. So averaging more than 300 passing yards. He's got 33 touchdowns and just 3 picks through those 14 games.
Yeah, I trust Mahomes. I don't think he's going to make a mistake. Maybe you bet no on the interception if you're going to bet something on Mahomes.
Yeah, I think his last interception, the postage, came like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the passing yards. I like the Chiefs, so I'm not going to bet the under. I'm not going to torture myself. I'll probably do that in plenty of other ways with plenty of other bets on Super Bowl Sunday. I don't need to box myself in here. I don't know if I'll be in a Mahomes prop other than the long rush. I think that he's gonna run the ball effectively, and I think he will break one off for over 12.5 yards, which is 9-6 since 2020 for him in the postseason. But I am nervous of those kneel downs because I like the Chiefs and because of what we saw 4 years ago. So I'm really looking more to rushing props on the quarterback.
Yeah,
Mahomes there, and to add on to what Steve said on Purdy. Purdy over rushing yards taking a lot of money this week. Johnny Avello told me that on Unreasonable Odds. That was the first prop he brought up when I asked him what are bettors backing on DK Sportsbook. The over on Purdy with the recency bias and all these runs in the postseason. He's stayed under his rushing prop on this number, this inflated number we're getting 12 times this season. I didn't think I was going to bet it early in the week. I've talked myself into the Brock Purdy rushing under.
Isaiah Pacheco has been also a very popular bet on the DraftKings Sportsbook. You kind of teased this earlier. You're targeting him also for a rushing prop.
I put him in my best bets article on DraftKings Network earlier in the week at 66.5 rushing yards on the over. Pacheco's been the battering ram for this offense all postseason. He's gone over his rushing prop in all 3 games. He's averaging 84.7 rushing yards in those 3 games. Now he's going to face a Niners defense that has fallen off a cliff in terms of defending the run. They're giving up 159 rushing yards per game against the Packers and Lions in home games in this postseason. I don't want to use too small of a sample size, but what have you done for me lately? They have been getting torched on the ground. Aaron Jones ripped off 108 yards on 18 carries. David Montgomery ripped off 93 yards on 15 carries. Not to mention Jahmyr Gibbs and Jamison Williams combined for another 87 rushing yards on 13 carries. This is the script for the Chiefs. I think they're going to hand it to Pacheco. I like his rushing over, and I think you can do something extra with him here. Like, if you like the Chiefs, you can go same game parlay like Pacheco over 80+ yards, anytime touchdown scorer, and Chiefs money line. And now you're like looking at 5-1 range. I think if you're going to build a same game parlay, correlate it. That's a very correlated one for the Chiefs attacking the matchup that they have here and coming out on top if you like them in the game.
Minus 130 on that too. So we know you love that juice, Josh.
Yeah, I know. I think, Emerson, when you're first into betting, you hate the juice because, I got to pay this extra amount. But to me, minus number is nothing wrong with that because, again, even though you're paying more, you're on the side that is quote unquote sharp here. I'll give you just 2 more guys. And I know we're getting close to the end of the segment. I noticed some money here coming in on Noah Gray. This is a guy that no one's really talking about, backup tight end, usually just a blocker. But he was 12.5 receiving yards to open the week. He's up to 13.5. Who's betting Noah Gray over? To me, that's just a bet that is not sexy, is not really that much of an interest to the public bettors, but maybe he just needs 1 catch to go over that number. I mean, he's 2-1 to the over this postseason. He had 20 yards against Miami, 16 against Buffalo. Now, Baltimore only had 2 for 8, but looking at those guys that are kind of under the radar, to me, could be the way to go. And then also Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He was 18.5. Now he's up to 19.5. So I know Kelsey, Mahomes, Debo, these guys are going to get all the attention. But to me, if you're juiced up and you're kind of a lesser known player, yet you're taking in sharp action, those are kind of the buy low spots that I'd look toward.
Steve, I think you were on the Noah Gray train last week on the show. We'll get to
not at all.
Not at all. What somebody
you jumped
here
off
was.
the train?
No. Someone mentioned Noah Gray on the show last week. We'll get to receiving props next, but give me a running back prop right now, Steve. Give me a rushing prop outside of what you like for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, so obviously really like Pacheco in this matchup here. So I like him to score a touchdown, and I like the over on his rushing yards. So if you kind of combine those together into one of those small same-game parlays, over 67.5 rushing yards and an anytime touchdown, you're getting plus 208 on that right now. We mentioned earlier in the segment here, 49 is allowing 5 rushing touchdowns in these playoffs so far. They've only played 2 games. We have Pacheco here who's been seen at least 15 carries in all 3 of the playoff games that he's played so far. He's averaging averaging 21 per game, and they have had no issue with going to him in the red zone as well. Like, one thing we keep mentioning, like, everybody loves Travis Kelce in this game. I think he's the highest bet person to score the first touchdown. He has a lot of tough matchups he has to deal with here, so they can easily go to Pacheco here, because remember, last week we were worried about his prospects without Tooney, 2 injuries. He went for 24 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown on that ground there last week, and then 14 yards through the air. Combine those, like I mentioned, plus 208. I like that better a lot.
Yeah, and if they do decide to shut down Kelce, hey, Rashee Rice could be a nice little dark horse MVP bet, boys.
I saw that you put that in the betting
you're
guide. I feel
welcome.
bad for everybody that read that and got
don't
tricked
listen
into
to
betting
me.
Rashee Rice.
All right, breaking news, guys. It isn't required to be an avid sports fan here to enjoy Super Bowl 58 or to bet on it. So casual fans can wager on everything from the resort of the coin toss, Gatorade color. Let's get after some novelty props, more receiving props as well after our break. So you want to be great like Elvis without the tassels. I get it. Who doesn't? Vegas is a great place to do just that. Super Bowl 58 has everything the imaginary script writers could have wanted, including Steve's favorite, Taylor Swift, who's expected to jet into town in time from Tokyo. I see you rolling your eyes over there, big man.
Right around the time.
Well, they said there's no more parking. There's no more parking at the airport, so I'm sorry she can't come.
It's right around the time that Steve's jetting out of town.
Yeah, that's right. She jets over, she parachutes in, she joins Usher at halftime Super Bowl, and then he proposes to her after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. I know exactly what's going to happen, everybody. No, actually, I do not.
Can't wait.
So let's get back into some props here, and let's start with receiving. Steve, what do you have in terms of wide receivers you're targeting or some tight ends here?
Yeah, there's a couple things here I like. And if you were watching the show last week, we were talking about George Kittle and how his line for his receiving yards felt fairly low. This has been getting bet up a lot during the week now, and now it's at a number where I would be wanting to take the under because it's at 49.5 yards. Like when this opened up, this was in like the very low 40s, but now it's gone up about 6 or 7 yards during the week. So if you didn't get on it now, I think this is an opportunity to take the under at this point here. So, this is a number here that the Chiefs are very strong against opposing tight ends. They hold them to about 42 yards per game. And we've seen, like last week, Kittle can be a complete non-factor in these games, especially with Deebo Samuel healthy. Kittle is someone that can be overlooked in this offense here. So, if you didn't take that earlier when we were talking about it last week, I think this is an opportunity to take an under at this point at 49.5 yards. And also one of my favorite long shots when it comes to receivers, Justin Watson had the longest reception in this game. This is at 15-1 right now. Amongst all receivers in this game, he has the highest average distance of target amongst any receivers in this game at 18.2. This is somebody who, when they need to stretch the field, they're more than comfortable than going to Watson. But this is not someone who's going to get, 4 or 5 targets in a game. He's likely going to get, 1, maybe 2 or 3 targets. So it's going to be a tight one here, but that's why his odds are so long. But if anybody can stretch the field, Watson is that guy.
Yeah, and going back to Kittle, Chiefs defense allowed the 3rd fewest average receiving yards to opposing tight ends. Just held, Steve, that Ravens tight end group to 31 yards. What do you like in terms of receiving props?
I like Taylor Swift's boyfriend going over.
Yeah, there you go, Buke.
Super public play. I can't believe this hasn't gone up more during the week, that the over is still viable, but 70.5 there on the yardage for Kelce. He's had 70-plus receiving yards in 12 straight playoff games. You saw what he did last week to Baltimore. There's a different connection when you got to have it in the postseason between Mahomes and Kelce. 11 targets, caught all of them, 116 yards. You look at the 49ers. What did they do last week? This defense has been soft in the postseason. I cannot get over that. Sam Laporta, 9 grabs for 97 yards in that game. And that was, Lions did a lot early, but that's with them holding that lead late and trying to hang on to a lead, not necessarily passing as much. So I just think that with Kelce, over that 12-game span, by the way, that he's gone over this number and every time in the postseason, he's averaging 98.2 receiving yards per game. So you can try and take him out of the game, but it seems like Mahomes is going to go there and find a way anyway. They kind of have these impromptu plays where they just figure it out. So I trust Kelce in this spot. Another one, I'm looking at the price now. I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, so to say, Josh, but I bet Juszczyk to record a reception at minus 140. It's now minus 160. That's pretty steep, but I do like him to get targeted a couple times in this game, probably catch a short one. He caught a touchdown the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl.
I think this only for the Swifties tab, Juszczyk or Kelce to be the first touchdown scorer in the game. I think it's around plus 600.
So
Josh,
just bet Kelce plus 7.
Yeah, that's what I pushed top of the show.
I'm not
that's
telling
why I know
you
what I'm
should
doing.
bet it. I'm saying
okay.
If you like, whatever.
No, thank you.
Try and reason
Novelty props here, Josh. You said in the break you're going off the beaten path, so do tell.
Yeah, so here's one for you. And by the way, juice worth the squeeze. This one, Sopranos fans, when Tony gets mad at Carmela, I like my juice with no pulp. This one is some pulp, Steve. So this one hopefully is no pulp. I'm going over 121.5 combined TD scorer jersey number. Okay, I butchered that.
Okay.
Johnny Avello literally told me on Unreasonable Odds this week that this is like the most difficult prop to bet. And here Josh is.
Hey, like he said, he likes a little bit of pulp.
Yes, I like the pulp. And also, is it difficult for Johnny B because maybe he can't set the number correctly? Maybe he's a little bit nervous.
That's
the angle that want to take here.
Johnny told me that he literally feels he invented this prop. He thinks he invented the combined rate. So I think he knows how to set it by now.
Proceed with caution, Josh.
I think he does, but I'm going to go over here. I'm going over 121.5. So let's go to the anytime touchdowns. McCaffrey's minus 230. His jersey number, though, is 23. That's low. We don't want that. We want high jersey numbers guys scoring here. Pacheco is 10, not good, but Kelsey is 87. You get 2 Kelsey touchdowns, you cash this over. If you get the top 3 guys to score a touchdown, McCaffrey, Pacheco, and Kelsey, it gets to 120. Now, we need 121.5, so we need someone else to score to get that number to hit. If you look at a couple guys down after that, Debo's 19, Rice is 4, Ayuk is 11, George Kittle is 47, so that's a high number there. Also, Juszczyk is 44, Noah Gray is 83. Basically, if we get the top 3 guys to score a touchdown who are expected to score, and we get one other guy, you know, you're going to cash this over here. And again, Kelsey gets it twice, you cash the over as well. So I'm going to go over 121.5. And again, look at the juice. It's minus 150 for a reason. So I'm going to go over in this one and maybe we get lucky and cash it.
I don't think so. I'm going to poke one hole in the handicap. I don't think 2 Kelsey touchdowns gets you there. I think that stays at 87. It's the total number of the guys that score touchdowns in the game. So if, you know, Kelsey scores 3 times, it's still at 87. And you're adding the jersey numbers up based on who gets into the end zone during the game, not how many times they get in the end zone.
Bukes, we're about to let you guys go there at Vegas. Would you like to add a novelty prop to the menu for the people at home?
Yeah, both teams to score 1 rushing touchdowns at plus 120 with the emergence of how much they've been using Pacheco. I think that this is very much in play here because obviously Christian McCaffrey has the best anytime touchdown odds of anybody in this game. So if you like him and then if you like Pacheco, how much they've been using him, I think it's a strong play there, getting plus money at plus 120 for both teams to score at least 1 rushing touchdown in this game.
All right, Josh, Steve, you guys go take a nap.
Steve's hitting the slots.
We gotta let
it.
We gotta let the Lombardi line come in and get set up. They are coming up after the Sweat. We'll see you guys back here live on a Sunday edition of the Sweat. Again, thanks for getting up at 4 a.m. out there in Vegas when most people are still up. But opening night is one of the biggest events of the week, the kickoff really to all the Super Bowl festivities, and Gojo taking us on a fun little journey throughout Monday night's event.
All right, we're out here at Allegiant Stadium, Super Bowl opening night. 49ers are here, Chiefs are here, Taylor Swift's boyfriend's here. We're going to try and catch up with all of them and see what's going on before the big game. I guess just first off, first reactions to being here opening white night, what's it been like?
It's been a blessing, man.
What's it been like watching everything that's gone on with Kristen since the Taylor Swift moment and everything that's happened since?
It's been so awesome, man. It's been so awesome. I'm so proud of her.
Has she made you a piece before?
She may have one coming up this Sunday. So.
All right, we're going to keep an eye out for that one. All right, it's just us talking here. We're going to get you under center at all during this one. If you want to give me one of those cocktail napkin plays to Andy for this game.
I know, right? We still got another week. Maybe I got to go get in his ear a little bit.
Exactly. It's about that time. You mentioned you had Smuckers in the locker room here. Are we talking Uncrustables and actual homemade PB&J? What are we working with?
Yeah, Uncrustables, grape jelly.
Grape jelly. All right, a man of great taste. Understandable, not surprised there. Travis and Taylor, obviously the store on the other side. But Kyle Juszczyk, Christian, we saw him in the replies, hyping up his wife everywhere. What's the nicest thing you've done for your wife or that she's done for you?
I bought her a car for Christmas.
It's pretty nice.
Not bad.
That's pretty nice.
Can't complain about it, you know?
There you go. All right, hey, listen, that's husband of the year stuff right there. All right, so as many of you are probably aware of by now, this game is a sequel to the game played 4 years ago between the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs that the Chiefs won. So we wanted to go around and ask a bunch of the guys getting ready to play in this game what their favorite sequel of all time is.
Have you seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Yes, I have.
I mean, that pops right into my mind. Two Towers and Return of the King. I mean,
just came out Equalizer. Denzel Washington, one of my favorites.
Which is the best Lord of the Rings movie among the three?
The Fellowship and the Return of the King, I go back and forth with. I love the first one, but that third one, I think just capping it all off and the ending was so awesome. I think, probably the third. How about you?
A man of great taste. I'm a Two Towers man myself. The battle at Helm's Deep, prior to Battle of the Bastard, the largest on-screen fight in history.
Unbelievable, yeah. So when Gandalf appears on that ridge, yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
That's when you really know.
Man, the Uncrustables thing really stood out to me. I eat a lot of Uncrustables for a man who's almost 40. Before we get out of here, you got a no sweat bet for the people?
Kentucky laid it at 3.5 at the opener. It's touched as high as 6.5. It's sitting 5 right now. They are going to smoke Gonzaga at Rupp today, so I'm laying it with the Wildcats.
All right, everybody. That is a Saturday morning edition of The Sweat on the eve of Super Bowl Swifty 8. We're back here again live tomorrow morning on VSiN and DraftKings Network, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Josh and Steve will be with us again live from Vegas. We're breaking down all the bets hours before the big game kicks off. We'll see you tomorrow.
Let's go Big Blue.